Oh, it's Mr. McFeely.
I have seen the future, and he was wearing number 5, and I ain't talking about Robbie Grimsley, folks.
Took out the muffins, took out the trail mix, took out the cookies. They stole the monster cookies.
Wow, that's awesome. That is so awesome. Let's do some broadcasting.
We'll do some broadcasting with our guy, Mike McFeely. Great to see you. We have a tradition on this show, and I apologize for people that watch that already know where I'm going, but it was Super Bowl opening night last night, which immediately conjures up the memory of this photo in Minneapolis, Minnesota, or St. Paul, Minnesota.
St. Paul, it was in
it
the
was
XL Center. Yep.
With Carson Wentz, who was back being interviewed last night on Super Bowl opening night.
Yes.
And one Deion Sanders, myself, you, a host of other media there, with our phones buzzing incessantly. Yours even more so because your credential was on the NFL Network.
Yes. So it was, that was when.
What a conglomeration
That's
of people
when
there.
you and I and Dion were hanging out and at the same level. We were all media
Dion's,
jackals.
yeah.
Yep.
Did this come up in Boulder? Did you show him the photo when we were out there?
Well, it was funny that when I was in the press conference afterward and I was asking Dion a question, this didn't make the news or anything because it was edited out apparently. But Dion said, "Hey, Mike, remember back and say?" I said, "Yes, Prime, yes." Right. Yeah. I do remember that back when we were talking to Carson Wentz at the Super Bowl. But that's past history. Dion, let's talk about Cam Miller now.
Carson's expression is all-timer when Dion was asking questions.
Yes. Well, he was trying to, it was just, and Dion was trying to, apparently he had tried to call Carson or something, and Wentz didn't answer. And then Dion was kind of busting his chops about and the look on,
Wentz's face was just, it's exactly right. Oh,
had no idea what Prime was talking about. No, this was pre-Prime. He was prime time.
Yeah,
but
he was Dion still.
But he was Dion. He wasn't, But Wentz's face was like,
that was all-timer.
Yep, good stuff.
I always have to share
that. Was a long time ago.
That is 7 years ago.
Yes.
It was January of 2000 or February of 2018.
Yeah.
Because
was that the same? Didn't I get in an accident on the way down there?
Later that week.
It was going back down, I think, wasn't
it? For
the
Super Bowl.
Yes.
Because we went twice down. We went for that.
Yes.
Came back.
I got sicker than a dog after after the media day thing. I was in bed for like 4 days just going, because that was just a bunch of.
Oh, man. We were in Philly 2 weeks prior to that.
We were running around.
The Minneapolis Miracle,
NDSU
we were there.
Football, and then the Vikings.
Yep.
And we were running around 1,000 miles an hour for a month straight. And my body, after this thing, just went, you know what? We're going to be done here for a while. Why don't you crawl into bed and not be like the groundhog and don't show up for 6 more days?
You felt better by the time Friday came around because we drove down Saturday. Yes. Blizzard that happened the night before the game.
And then
right by Maple Grove.
We're right by Maple Grove, that little curve in the road where the clam ice fishing factory is. And there's an underpass under a railroad track, and there's a little curve in the road there, and it was glare ice, and it was bumper to bumper traffic.
Oh, God.
And it was just like a skating rink, and I'm going along, and then everything starts to just go.
Then it did.
Cars are going sideways, and I'm going sideways, and I go and I do like I'm doing Mario Andretti. I mean, this is the greatest driving.
It was really good.
Oh, it was the greatest driving feat of my life to avoid. And I think I'm in a company car. I'm in the Forum's car.
You're definitely not in your own.
No, I was in the Forum's car, and I'm doing the all my. Going back to the driver's ed, turn with the tires, don't get some. And I'm going sideways, and I go in the ditch, and I think I finally escaped. I come to a stop.
You hadn't hit anybody.
I hadn't hit anybody.
Great.
No, and I'm in the median, and I'm like, oh, yeah. And all of a sudden, I look in the rearview mirror, and here comes a Suburban, and just boom. It was a front office executive of the Minnesota Timberwolves. How about that? Yeah, we exchanged phone numbers and names. I go, hey, don't you? He goes, yes, I work for the Timberwolves. Yep, front office guy. Yep. I go, all right. So I still got his phone number in my phone if you ever want to get
tickets or something.
Sure.
There you go.
Hi. Remember me?
You hit my car.
You smashed my car, which led to miles of paperwork for me, by the way. Yes, but so thank you for that.
Oh, man. Matt Henson and I were right in front of you, and I don't know how we stopped. I have no idea.
Yeah.
None.
And I was not,
a crazy
yes, it was,
trip.
yes, it was. And then the game was okay,
yeah,
too.
The game was pretty good.
Yes.
That Brady guy was all right, threw for 500 yards.
Did they win the game,
They
though?
did not win the game. Nick Foles and the Eagles won.
There was a play in that is now immortalized outside the link.
Yes. As is Nick Foles is immortalized outside the link, too, with Doug Peterson.
Doug Peterson, yes.
So anyway, I had to show that since Super Bowl opening night was last night. I mentioned it briefly off the top of the show. Bison men are in a different spot now. 2 losses in a row.
Hey.
Sunday they got run out of the gym, but I don't even know if they got in the gym, frankly, because St. Thomas just put the hammer down. This wasn't a game from the start.
No, it was not.
Destroyed them.
No, it was not good. The Bison are in a bit of a funk here, and it doesn't get any easier. I don't think they played particularly well against UND at home, but they won the game.
Right.
I thought
that was the 48
I thought they had
that
opportunities in that game to put them away, and they just didn't. And then the South Dakota State game, I thought was just a huge disappointment. I kind of went to that game thinking, okay, this is going to be good. I mean, whoever wins, it's going to be a good ball game. And it just never turned out that way because South Dakota State just outplayed them in every way, shape, and form. And then this game Sunday was, I don't know what that was, but it doesn't get any easier because now they go to Kansas City Thursday and then Omaha on Saturday. And now it's to the point that you're hoping for one of those two.
Yeah, you got to split.
But I'm not even sure it matters at this point because I think if you look at the way things are going to work out, they're probably pretty much locked into the 4 or 5 spot in the conference, which means then you're kind of hoping, like, who do you want to win the conference? Because then who do you want to match up with in the semifinals? And so I myself would pick Omaha, but that's not coming from anybody but me. But I don't. St. Thomas is just such a horrible matchup.
It's not a good
for
matchup.
them.
No.
And South Dakota State's going to be playing on their home court. Although they went up to Grand Forks and stunk up the gym up there as well. Just didn't quite show up for that game. And Oscar Clough, after scoring 37 layups against North Dakota State, had like 8 points against UND. So I don't know what. And I didn't see the game, but just talking to a couple
King
people.
Went crazy in that game.
Yep.
For UND.
And I think UND maybe went to the basket more than relied on threes, and maybe that's a soft spot for South Dakota State's defense. Maybe not. I don't know, but it was an odd weekend all the way around.
So
for everybody.
Omaha lost to South Dakota last week. That gave them their first loss, which was kind of clunker there because I didn't think. I mean, USD,
which is going to happen though. I mean, it's the Summit League. It's a long college basketball season.
It is.
You're not. The teams that went undefeated in the Summit League, like the Earl Roberts and the
Jacks,
South Dakota States, those were really, really good teams. I don't know that we're going to see that again in the modern landscape of college basketball when you're losing all your good players every year.
Yeah.
And you're not replacing them with equal players, by the way.
Yeah.
And the same holds true in football, by the way. You can't. Sam Herder and I talk about this all the time. And I don't want to go off on this, but I will. You can't lose all the best players off your teams and then think drop downs are going to replace them.
Yes.
It's not an equal 1-for-1 trade. No. It's just not.
Nope.
And in football, we've talked about this some. We'll talk about it more. You can't lose all your best players, like let's say to Washington State, for example.
Right.
And then replace them with the bottom 20 guys on Nebraska. I mean, or Utah. It just doesn't. It's not going to work that way.
Or Wisconsin, something
but
like that.
But going back to the Summit League, I just don't know that we're going to see like a dominant, undefeated team. And I don't think I know there's not a dominant team in the league this year on the men's side.
Eric, if you can, throw up the standings again. So Omaha and St. Thomas are each 8-1. Omaha still has the Bison, as we mentioned, Saturday, and they still have to go to Brookings.
Yeah.
St. Thomas.
And UND.
Right. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, so, I mean, we knew that North Dakota State's second half schedule was going to be really hard.
Yes.
Which was why those first 2 losses in the league
were brutal.
And they've lost 3 home games now.
Yes.
You just can't do that.
Cannot.
And so you got to kind of hope, I think, to finish in that 4th spot. And
I think you're right. Because as it goes now, Omaha would play the winner of Kansas City and ORU, right?
Yep.
St. Thomas would play Denver. The Jacks would get UND, which, granted now, as you mentioned, that's a home game for SDSU in Sioux Falls. And the Bison would play South Dakota, which they scored 200 points against USD in that game in Vermillion. But again, USD's got to come up here in a couple weeks for that. St. Thomas, Michael, we're going to get to that again. We almost had it last year, and you called me a cheerleader for them, but they could very well make it to Tuesday or Sunday night because that's when the title game is.
Yep.
And we could have a heck of a scenario where they could win it.
Yeah,
they're not going. They're not going to the dance.
Whatever. I think it's wrong that they got the waiver from the NCAA.
So they're eligible next year.
Yeah. Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Why them? Why not anybody else?
Because the NCAA is 0-275 in lawsuits right now. They're like, yeah, we're done. We're not going down this road.
It doesn't matter if I mean. This storyline, and I know that you like it. I don't care.
Doesn't do anything for
me. I mean, who cares? If they win, they win. They can't go. Just like James Madison
couldn't.
By the way, James Madison for years tried to get the window shortened for them, and the NCAA said, Boop. And then St. Thomas flies in and waves a lawyer in front of the NCAA. Okay, you're in. Hey, do you want to get in automatically? Do you want just a pass to the tournament every year? Because the NCAA is just so weak and pathetic in every way that what are we even doing here?
Last thing before we go. Can a team in your mind this year on the men's side win 3 games in 3 days? Or is it, hey, one of those top 2 and maybe the Jacks be considered that could win this thing on the men's side? Could you see a team win 3 in 3 days? Like if the Bison would have to go as the 4 or the 5 seed?
Sure, yes. I mean,
think so?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that the bye thing doesn't
do that much for
them either. I mean, these are 20-year-old kids. If you can't play 3 basketball games in 3 days, you lay off the Luka Doncic donuts.
Let's break. We come back. We'll chat.
Luka donuts. That's what my wife calls him.
Guy? Boy, the rivalry tie. Yeah, the Celtics beat him. That's pretty good. I like that. We'll chat some football. The news yesterday with Randy Hedberg retiring. And Jake Landry now going to be the QB coach. We'll discuss that when Hot Mike returns after this. Welcome back, everybody. Some breaking news to share from our guy, Jeff Kolpak, story that we've been following here for a little bit. It's not official, but it's pretty close to it. The Bison coaching staff will be rounded out by another former Bison. Sam O'Jury will be coaching the Bison running backs, sounds like, for the 2025 season.
Yeah, that's interesting because I think if memory serves, and you probably have all this stuff on file somewhere in your video library, but I thought that Tim Paulsek said
him about him,
when he first got here, I think Tim mentioned Sam O'Jury as, somebody not to keep an eye on, but I think he maybe wanted to even bring him on at the start of his tenure, but maybe there wasn't an opening or something. If I just don't remember. I'm old and my brain is scrambled from bowling last night, and so I don't really remember any of this stuff. But I think that, and then when the Bison played Illinois State, either you or Kolpak asked him about Sam, and they talked about that quite a bit, I think.
And they were talking extensively before the game when we were normal this year.
And so that one doesn't surprise me in the least. It made perfect sense from the start. You kind of brought it up last week when Randy Hedberg retired. You thought, I wonder if Sam's coming back. And I said, that's a good one there. That's good thinking.
It's now, 11 years since Sam O'Jury played. He was a really, really good running back.
Yes.
Paired with John Crockett, man. They were dynamite together.
I mean, yep. Strong, fast. And he's done a good job at Illinois State. They've had some good running backs at Illinois State.
Mason King was a very, very good player. He tore his ACL in the second play of the season for Illinois State this year.
And so he's done a good job there. I think that Tim referred to him as a very strong recruiter, which that's the name of the game in college football.
Exactly right.
And so I'm sure Sam is excited to get back here. Not that, I mean, Illinois State's a good job. I mean, I think we always want more out of Illinois State than what they provide, but I mean, they won 10 games last year, wasn't it? Or 11 games?
Won a playoff game, lost in the second round of the tournament.
Yeah.
So heck, they got crushed by Davis, but that was, pretty good year.
Yep. And so that's, it's the 2013 team, one of the all-timer Bison teams is now, they're pretty much taking over the coaching staff at NDSU. They got Grant Olson, Carlton Littlejohn, and
now Sam O'Jury.
Sam O'Jury.
Yeah.
So
it's a pretty good run there.
It is.
You were at Randy Hedberg's press conference yesterday. I know you wrote about it this morning. You can check it out at inforum.com about Hedberg's legacy. Polisic announced yesterday, again, not really a surprise, that Jake Landry is going to take over that job as the quarterback's coach and double as that and an offensive coordinator. I think it's interesting. It's another North Dakotan. But that's the part of it that Hedberg, he'll get plenty of credit and well should on the 4 straight guys that are going to be in the NFL. The way he mined North Dakota was really impressive to me, to find guys that were maybe not the highest of profile recruits. And I'm not talking about Volson and Mauk. I'm talking about other guys that end up being really dependable guys out of North Dakota on the Bison football
and that's
roster.
something that Polisic mentioned yesterday, made a point to mention it, is that, they have to keep letting people in North Dakota know that North Dakota State is the best program in the state. Yep. And so that was, if that's, and I'm not clear, but is going to be Jake Landry's then?
I would imagine so.
Territory. I guess we didn't ask Tim specifically about that.
I would imagine so. Tim's going to be on the show tomorrow, so I'll try and ask
I would guess
tomorrow.
I would assume,
Yeah.
He's a North Dakota guy from Grand Forks and knows the state. And so that'll be his territory. But no, Randy Hedberg, as Jeff wrote in his story yesterday, he's probably driven every highway in the state multiple times.
Yes.
And he did a great job of and it helps when you're winning 10 national championships that you're going to be the program that, if you're a kid in North Dakota that wants to play college football for one of the in-state schools, for the last 15 years, the obvious choice has been North Dakota State. But it's up to the staff now to keep it that way. There's going to be some competition. I think that the new guy up in UND is going to be better at recruiting. And it sounds like he's setting up an infrastructure up there, with the recruiting coordinator, and they're just going to do things differently than they did under Bubba Schweigert. And that's
a battle there, I think.
I think eventually there's going to be some in-state battles that there just hasn't been for the last 20 years.
Jake Landry, I think quietly, and I think you and I had a phone call about this maybe last week, quietly just had a really, really good year as the play caller for the Bison this year. I think that might maybe not got enough attention from me throughout the entire season.
Yeah, and I agree that if you look at what they did offensively, look at the last 4 games.
Yeah.
Everybody, again, it's FCS, so nobody likes NDSU, and they're all looking at the new flashy thing, and it was South Dakota State, and it was USD, and it was certainly Montana State, and they're all great FCS programs. But if you look at NDSU's offense, especially the last few games against good teams, dominant.
Yep.
28 on the road at South Dakota against what I thought was the best defense in the country. I just thought USD was better than SDSU.
I agree with
defensively this year.
Yep.
Then the playoffs, Abilene Christian, they scored 51 or whatever it was against Mercer, which was actually a better defensive team than I gave them credit for. They scored 31 in that game. And I thought they could have done more in that game as well. South Dakota State, they scored 28 against South Dakota State, which thought that they had the greatest defense in the history of the world. And we were told that by everybody, including our guy Sam Herder and everybody else, that they're back. They're just as good. Yeah. No, they weren't. NDSU scored 28 on them. And then the championship game, they scored 35 and just blitzed them early on to kind of really put Montana State in a hole. So I just thought that there was some creativity and some game planning and some prep that I'm not in the room and all that stuff, but if you watch the games as much as we do, you kind of go, well, okay, they're not going to run. When the Bison got in trouble, they didn't always rely on running off tackle and just trying to pound the ball, which I think under Tyler Rolfe, love Tyler. One of the great Bisons of all time, but I think they kind of got a little.
I'd say predictable.
The word I'm looking for is predictable.
Yes.
That it was, we are going to overpower you, period. And I think that with Jake Landry, he certainly trusted Cam Miller to do, whatever he thought needed to be done to win the game and score points.
Great to see you, Zoe, man. Thank you for coming by. Appreciate it.
Yes, glad to be here.
Mike McFeely joins us each and every Tuesday at 9:30. We'll break. We come back. We'll start our second hour. Got a big Moorhead hour of power in our second hour, starting with Ryan Kraft, girls hockey coach of the Spuds. He'll join us when we start hour 2. Coming back after this.